Thirsty for action? Let's crack open the Sunday six-pack.
All right, Stuck. Got to stay hot. Always tough. You know, the regression monster, the luck monster, going to try to catch up to us. But let's start it off. Let's build our week 5 Sunday six-pack. Like I said, 5-0-1 last week. You're up first. Where are you going?
All right, for my first pick of the week 5 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers -1.5. Anything under 3 is fine. Against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. First of all, have to say it. First time I've said it all year. Rah-rah spot. Classic Tomlin rah-rah spot. Off a loss at home in prime time against the Dallas Cowboys. The Steelers will be juiced. Usually shows up on the defensive side of the ball. That's why a lot of times in these Tomlin rah-rah spots, the unders have been so successful. Steelers are beat up on the offensive line. They've lost 3 guys now. James Daniels has been their best offensive lineman, but I think they should get Samaloa back, who can slot into that guard. Zach Frazier, by the way, he's playing really well at center, the rookie. Cowboys also, have a rookie at center that's not playing particularly well. And, I've clowned him a lot in the past, but if you look at the Steelers' offensive line, who's playing well?
Who?
Left tackle. But Dan Moore. Dan Moore.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Actually playing okay. So, the offensive line is not great, but it's not awful. But here's the thing. The Steelers want to run the ball. And Justin Fields has played well. I mean,
yes,
he's exceeded all of my expectations. He can use his legs to extend drives. He's making smart throws. He's picking and choosing the right times when to get the ball downfield to Pickens. And he just really has a command of this offense. But this offense wants to run first and rely on its defense. Can they do that here? Well, yes, because the Cowboys cannot stop the run. 31st in line yards, 31st in rush efficiency, 31st in EPA per rush. They can't stop the run at all. And most importantly, no DeMarcus Lawrence, no Micah Parsons.
There you go.
I mean, without those two, and they don't have a second corner right now, what is this defense? It's a bottom of the barrel unit. I mean, Micah Parsons is one of the most valuable defensive players in the NFL. And you don't have him and Lawrence. I mean, look at that defensive line. I just don't see much here. And they're giving up a ton of explosive runs. That's where Pitt has thrived. Going back to Fields, he's 11th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation composite. Dak's 22nd. You know why Dak's struggling a bit? It's like he doesn't have any help. They can't run the ball. There's no run game to speak of. There's no explosiveness there. The offensive line is struggling. Their rookies are struggling. You have 2 good guards, but the rest of the unit is pretty underwhelming. You have no help in the run game. It's mainly, what can I get the ball to Lamb? Well, he gets all the attention. So there's just not much help. So I really like this matchup because what's going to happen here is Dallas can't run the ball. There's going to be a lot of known passing situations for Dallas. And what's going to happen is TJ Watt is inevitable. He's probably going to have a huge play in this game. There's going to be pressure on Prescott. The Pittsburgh linebackers, I mean, I was never a fan of Patrick Queen. They're not great in coverage. So maybe, the tight ends, Ferguson, can have a big day here. But they're best at rushing the passer, known passing downs. That's their strength, which they can do here. So, yeah, I mean, look, Steelers should be able to run it, making things easier on Fields, who can also use his legs, take his shots to Pickens. Cowboys won't be able to run it, won't be able to protect Dak. And look, one of the biggest advantages that the Cowboys have is their kicker, Brandon Aubrey, who can make one from anywhere on the field. Steelers have a pretty good kicker themselves, most accurate now in NFL history. So they could match, and it's a really tough stadium to kick in. So, yeah, I like the Steelers here. Rah-rah spot. It just can't be overstated enough, the loss of both Lawrence and, more importantly, Michael Parsons for this defense that already had no chance of stopping the run. And that's what the Steelers want to do. Rely on the D, run the ball. They can do that here.
I agree with the pick, but I actually have a hot take. I think the Steelers are a better passing team than running team right now. I mean, because you remember, Cordell Patterson, Jaylen Warren, those guys are both banged up. So you're really Najee Harris. And
they might come back this week for what it's worth.
I mean, well, I don't know, because they did they signed to the active roster Aaron Shamplin out of Harvard. So I feel like at least one of them is going to be out. I'm guessing it's Patterson, but yeah, Steelers' run game is kind of hit or miss right now. But I think Fields has really impressed me. I mean, the weird drop back, fumbling, unforced errors notwithstanding last week in that game, that just felt like it was never going to end and I was going to lose that cover. But yeah, I think what you'll probably see is Dallas sell out to try to stop the run and just see if Pittsburgh will, take its shots and go down the field and then adjust from there. Because I mean, I don't really see any other way to play it if you're Dallas. Like, you're not going to just sit back. You're not scared of Fields, but I think Fields in a passing game is actually gonna be their best means of offense.
Yeah, the Dallas secondary has holes too because of injuries. They made Daniel Jones look elite against them. I mean, the Cowboys, they got pretty fortunate in that game. The Giants were 0-2 in the red zone.
5
lost
field goals,
the turnover
right?
battle. Yeah. But Daniel Jones looked great, and I thought the Steelers were unlucky last week. They had that fumble. They just got in a hole. They were probably the better team overall, start to finish. So I think they come out strong here. And Dak is better versus man. Last year he was twice as efficient versus man than zone. Steelers run a ton of zone here. Their cover 3 usage is up there with the Panthers this year. So you're going to see a lot of zone on the back end. And you're going to see a lot of pressure. I think the Steelers get it done at home in a rah-rah spot. And I'm also happy that I got to do this so our producer can throw in some Tomlin clips. I don't know if he's used the hot dog one. Maybe he'll throw that one in there. I can't give you the ingredients to the hot dog, something like that. But where are you going for your first pick?
For my first pick in the second overall of the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, I am going with the Denver Broncos -1.5, anything under 3, or take the money line. But love the Broncos this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. This defense, as you mentioned earlier, is excellent. And this Raider team is just in a bad spot because you're not going to have Devontae Adams. Looks like Mayer is still away from the team as well. Your right tackle, Thayer Mumford, looks like he's going to be out now too. Crosby's still not practicing, but your offense is in dire straits. You got Minshew against a defense that's top 5 in pressure rate, top 5 in DVOA, number 1 in yards per play allowed at 4.2. Can blitz, can pressure. Minshew, when he's pressured, his passer rating goes from 96 to 62 this year. He's probably due for more mistakes than he's even made this year. He's held up pretty well. I mean, he started off with those 3 straight, 275-yard games or something. But I thought the Raiders, well, both teams, to be fair, were extremely lucky to win last week. But the Raiders, I mean, there was a 82-yard touchdown called back. They got a fumble, took it. There was just a lot going on there for this Raider team. But if you can stop the pass for them, they cannot run the ball. Their rush success rate on early downs, 25%, dead last by a mile in the National Football League. They're probably going to give Madison more carries. We know how that's going to go. The minute he becomes not a backup, it's just downhill. But the Broncos, great against the run and the pass, but Riley Moss playing well. The secondary's playing well. The Raiders don't have
playing really well at
safety.
safety.
Yeah, exactly. Just everyone at safety and everyone at corner. I mean, Surtain is kind of going under the radar, but he's shutting people down. McMillan in the everyone's playing well for this team. They're getting pressure, and if you can't pass efficiently, if you're Vegas, which they do not project to be able to do in this matchup, it's going to be really tough. And then this Bronco team is already middle of the pack in DVOA. I figured they would start to get better a couple weeks ago, and they ended up doing that. Sean Payton's going to figure it out. We saw that last year even with a team he kind of dragged to 8 wins with Russell Wilson. So I think this defense is for real. And offensively, yeah, we make fun of Bo Nix. It was, I mean, just disgusting last week. And on top of that, they try to get some more explosiveness in the run game with Beatty. He gets seriously injured and fumbles, and it was just a mess. But some positives: this Vegas defense not very good. Bottom 10 in pretty much all metrics, and you have
what the top bottom 10 now, by the way, is preventing the explosive pass. Do you know that doesn't matter against the Broncos?
Right, exactly. So, and let's think about for a second, because Bo Nix, I know it's disgusting. It's hard to bet on Bo Nix, especially as a favorite. But let's consider something. He's a rookie. He's had 4 starts. The defenses he faced.
He's faced that's crazy.
Pittsburgh, Seattle, which is a top 8 DVOA defense, even though I know that they got crushed by Detroit, but still.
That was when they were healthy. Seattle was missing 5 starters. They were healthy
and they got
first
talent.
game in Seattle.
And then he faced the Jets. We know the Jets are really good. And
in conditions, in weather conditions.
Yeah.
Rodgers didn't do anything either.
Right. So 3 of the 4, and even the Bucks, like we said, Todd Bowles he's has them playing pretty above their talent level anyway, considering all the injuries. So yeah, it can look a lot different this week, kind of like a couple weeks ago against the Bucks, where
D injuries, not an elite day.
Yeah, and what I do like about Sean Payton is he's not just doing that thing that you expect, especially like the older coaches to do with a young rookie quarterback. He's like, I'm just gonna hand the ball off. Like, he's passed so much that now he can go ahead and run it, and I think the defense probably won't even be expecting it. He started to run it a little bit more in that second half against the Jets, which I thought was smart. But overall, I like the fact that he's gotten Knicks just a shit ton of dropbacks. So the experience is going to be there, and the tendencies, you don't actually know what's going to happen. It's positive that Javonte got going. I don't know if that's going to last, but it is a positive. So yeah, I just think that this Raider team's not going to be able to score. I think the Broncos get some turnovers. I think their defenses, their offense, they're playing really good special teams as well. So yeah, like the Broncos, under 3, money line, whatever you want to do. Give me Denver. And remember, tough place to go play in Denver. So Raiders, they got off with that home win indoors last week. Now you're coming out to Denver. It's going to be tough. So yeah, give me the Broncos. Where are you going next?
Yeah, this would have been one of my plays for what it's worth, but you selected it. They also have Dylan Parham got banged up. I think he'll play, but he's their best offensive lineman. He had to come out of the game last week. Raiders, their 2 wins. They were down double digits against the Ravens, got ridiculous penalties. Lucky win. Got completely outplayed. Against the Browns, down double digits. Browns lose all kinds of players, offensive linemen, and they need a horrendous holding call on 80-yard penalty, and then need a red zone stop at the end. Raiders extremely fortunate, and you nailed it with who Knicks has faced. I think they'll be able to run the ball here. I don't think Crosby's going to play either. That's huge. And Raiders want to take away the explosive play. That's not really, that doesn't really matter that much against the Broncos. Broncos' offensive line playing well. This kid Palczewski, as he took over at right tackle, 75 pass block snaps, 2 pressures allowed. He's playing well, and the Broncos are just blitzing like crazy. 52% on first down, 45% on third down, 40% on third down, 67% on fourth downs. All top 5 in the league. They're getting pressure. Minshew turns into a pumpkin under pressure. That's the difference here. I prefer the money line, by the way. Profiles is a low-scoring game, could be like a weird, field goal game. So that's the route I went. But for my second pick, and the third overall, the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, we're back, baby. We're going with the Carolina Panthers, +4 against the Chicago Bears. I know it hurts to do, but the Panthers did get me and us a cover against the Raiders. I didn't bet them last week, so I think I'm absolved of my sins. I think the Bears were extremely fortunate last week against a Rams team that was decimated by injuries. The Rams were 1 of 4 in the red zone, -2 turnover margin. They were close to a yard better in net yards per play. And this is a team without its whole offensive line, without Kupp, without Nakua. So the Bears have 2 wins this year. The Titans which, by the way, the Titans have one win. One of the most fraudulent wins in the NFL over the past 25 years. You get 2 ridiculous touchdowns, come back without ever scoring an offensive touchdown. I don't want to talk about that game anymore. Meanwhile, I thought the Panthers were pretty unlucky last week against the Bengals. They were stopped on the goal line to start the game. They had a turnover inside their own 20 that led to a touchdown. And then the Bengals scored in the final play of the half by like an inch.
when he slipped.
When he slipped.
Yeah.
Huge swing.
I will say this. They deserve all that shit for that sorry-ass tackling job on the Jamar Chase touchdown, because that was just ridiculous. Like, I have never seen worse. I don't know if I've seen worse tackling. But no, I agree. They were very unlucky.
And then they tried a fake punt, and it didn't work. It was close to working. They didn't, and then the Bengals had a short field. But the yardage was, it was like 375 to 373. The upgrade to Andy Dalton cannot be overstated. I mean, let's look. He's 7th in adjusted EPA per play at 0.21. Caleb Williams is 28. You know what Bryce Young is? 33rd at negative 0.5. I mean, an adjusted EPA per play. That's an unheard of, unbelievably bad number. That's like, I think I was going back and looking. That's like Luke Falk is like the only guy you'll see in that territory. It's as bad as it gets. But this Panthers offense is now competent.
Yeah, they can block. They can block.
They can block. Number 1 in the NFL in pressure rate allowed. I mean, I think they're, let's see, pressure percentage allowed on true dropback percentages. Panthers 16.5%. That's by far the best in the league. So Dalton's getting time. Dalton looks great. This offense is competent. The Bears defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers offensive line will be able to handle them. And this is more of a fate of the Bears as a favorite. They have to win by significant margin now. It's different, much different laying just a field goal or under than 4. And this Bears offense it just doesn't look right. The offensive line is bad. They're just not playing well. They can't really run the ball. Swift had some success last week, but this is still a bad rushing offense. That's how you really attack the Panthers. What happened? What was the Panthers win this year? Against the Raiders, a team that can't run the ball with a struggling quarterback, right? That's how, and the Panthers defense, by the way, the Panthers defense keeps losing guys, and they're not talented, but they're playing just above their heads. Everyone's playing better because of this quarterback change. Like, just the morale is better. And I think they're going to, with their coverages on the back end, Everett does a good job there with his zone looks. I think they'll probably confuse Caleb into a mistake or two. And they're blitzing a lot more because they can't generate pressure any other way. The Bears have been lost against the blitz. I mean, completely lost. So I think they can have some success there. But Caleb Williams leads the league in inaccurate pass rate. He's just off target too much. The offense just hasn't got going. This is just too many points. And the Bears have 2 one-possession wins. They were both completely lucky at home against the Rams practice squad and, Will Levis by just throwing the game away. So, yeah, I think there's too much value here in the Panthers. The upgrade is astronomical to Darnold.
Darnold?
Darnold. Wow. Freudian slip. Oh boy.
Where's PJ Walker at?
Oh man. It's the Red Rocket is a massive upgrade, and the offensive line just gives them a chance. They have talented skill position players. It's just a whole different operation. So give me the Panthers +4 on the road in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't get to the -4. And I agree the Bears were lucky. I am a little concerned about this game just because I do think there's some uncertainty with I talked about it last week. The Bears are offensively, like, actively making changes that are benefiting them. Like, they did kind of switch up the run scheme a little last week. They're getting Komet on the field and the tight ends on the field more. And if they do that against the Panthers, which would be the right thing to do, they could have some success. And, Williams was dumping it off to the running back a lot more, which he's still inaccurate, but he's cutting down on those, like, terrible negative plays where he's just running around doing nothing and either throwing it inaccurately or taking a sack because he's dumping it off more. So, like, there are things where we might see a Bears blow up spot at any time now. That's got me a little worried, but I agree. It's Panthers or nothing here at Bears -4. It's kind of wild.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching, but this is a team that has not scored. I mean, they scored 24 against Tennessee thanks to a block punt, touchdown, and a pick six. They scored 13 against Houston. They scored 16 against the Colts defense, and then they only
should have
scored
had 23, but
they scored
blew it at the goal line.
And then they scored 24 against the Rams, but they had a 16-yard touchdown drive. They had a late field goal at the end of the half after the Rams missed a field goal. So the second half operation looked better, but they've been getting fortunate in their wins with how their points are coming, and they're still not clearing 24. So, yeah, I like the Panthers here. Where are you going next?
For my second pick and the fourth overall, the Week 5 Sunday 6-pack, let's go with the Houston Texans +1.5, +1 if you can't get the 1.5, against the Buffalo Bills. And when I first started to break down this game, I thought I was going to land on, okay, bounce back spot for the Bills. Texans just haven't been quite right. But the more I dive into this matchup, the more I think the Texans just have an edge and shouldn't be a home underdog at all, because the Texans, yes, their offense hasn't looked quite right, but it's a lot of things that are correctable. Penalties, just lots and lots of stupid penalties. Looks like you're getting Tank Dell back this week. And with those receivers, even if you don't have Dell, you still have Diggs, you still have Nico. But what you could do with those receivers and CJ Stroud's accuracy, in the intermediate and deep levels of the field, is you can attack the Buffalo safeties. And the Buffalo safeties are not good. You got DeMar Hamlin, you got Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp's in the concussion protocol, I think. So this safety group is weak for Buffalo. So this could be a spot where Houston gets right. And Houston, it seems a little kind of like meh for them, but they're 3-1, just like the Bills. They've outgained their opponents in every game, even the Minnesota loss. The Bills only did outgain their opponents in 2 out of 4. And I think this offense is going to have some success throwing the ball against these safeties. And then on the other side, we know what Buffalo wants to do is run. And Houston is a top 5 defense and run in adjusted line yards and run defense DVOA. They've been very good against the run. They've been good overall. I mean, they're 6th in DVOA on defense, better than the Bills, actually. But you have a Buffalo team that really hadn't trailed much at all until last week. And when they start trailing, that's when things start to unravel.
Splitting out. They start splitting out Josh Allen.
Right. And
on the ball.
And Houston has the offense to get a lead on Buffalo. And that's really important, because not only does Buffalo kind of get out of their comfort zone, which, under Brady, they want to run, but Khalil Shakir is on the injury report with an ankle injury. He is their by far best receiver. That's big. And on top of that, Houston,
NFL record 30 straight. Their NFL record got broken. 30 targets catches, in a row with a catch. That's insane.
Imagine Khalil Shakir and Jared Goff on the same team. But yeah, Shakir, that's big, even if he's not 100%, because none of their other receivers are 100% at anything. These are just spare parts. Coleman, maybe he'll get there, but I don't think he's ready yet. He's kind of flashed here and there. I do like the kid, but anyway, what I was saying, so this Buffalo team gets behind. You don't have Shakir. And in Houston, not only have they been really good on defense, but they're number 1 against the tight end. So we know this Buffalo team, especially because their wide receivers are shaky, they've been going to a lot of 2 tight end personnel. They just, Dawson Knox continues to be a big part of their offense. So Houston pretty much matches up perfectly. I mean, Buffalo's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason they're a road favorite. Much respect to Buffalo, but Houston pretty much matches up perfectly. They have the chops to attack Buffalo where they're weakest on defense, and not just like, oh yeah, they're missing some linebackers. Like, no, I'm talking about like really attack them with their safeties, down the field and create some explosives. And then on the other side, they stop the run and they can cover tight ends. It's just a really good matchup for the Houston Texans. So I like the Texans here as an underdog. CJ Stroud also just a lot better playing at home for whatever reason. I mean, not for whatever reason. Many quarterbacks are like that, but you look at Stroud's home road splits. At home, he's 8-2. On the road, he's 4-5. At home, 8.7 yards per attempt, 9.4 adjusted yards per attempt. On the road, 7.3 and 7.5. So he's kind of just like an average everyday Kirk Cousins on the road. At home, that's when he turns into CJ Stroud. 20 touchdowns, 4 picks at home, just 9-3 on the road. So give me the Texans.
Yeah, this is the way I would look as an underdog. I do want Joe Mixon to play. He didn't practice today, but that's expected with a vet. If he practices tomorrow and Friday and plays, that's big, because what's happening to the Texans, the operation's off. You mentioned the penalties, some of that, like Minnesota, they had I think they have like 3 or 4 straight. It was either false starts or illegal. Yeah. It was a mess.
It's always ridiculous.
They've definitely had some penalty issues, but Mixon's important because what's happening to the Texans is what happened to the Chiefs a couple years ago, and it's still happening to a certain extent, is that last year, I mean, CJ Stroud was an explosive play merchant. I mean, there was just explosive plays all over. He was the one guy, right? This whole league is just no one throwing down the field. I guess now this year it's Darnold and
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson just chucking it down there. But Stroud was that one guy. So what's happening? Way more cover 2.
Yep.
Tripled. Opponents have tripled their cover 2 usage against Stroud this year, trying to take away that explosive play. McDermott knows how to run a cover 2. That's the entire premise of the Bills defense, is they want to prevent those explosive plays. Now, their safeties aren't very good. What do you have to do to you have to draw the safeties in. You got to establish the run of it. It's what the Chiefs do. You got to run against that defense and do it effectively. Texans haven't had an effective run game in recent years, but you've seen it with Mixon. So I think Mixon's presence here is important. I do lean towards him playing, which I think is key here.
Yeah, he was close. He was close last week, and yeah, he did. He got like,
he practiced on Friday and then got scratched.
But I was gonna say, who did score a rushing touchdown for the Texans last game? Who's going to be very, very involved in this game plan?
Bunwale.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't he score a touchdown?
Yeah, no, he did. He scored the game-winning touchdown right before that. We like that crazy sequence at the end where I thought we lost the cover or something. I was like, why are they spiking the ball?
After all, not being able to get a single score in the final minutes for an entire month. If the other team scored on that to cover, it was on a corner TV, and I said, I'm watching, my stomach is just dropping because there was a penalty on the kick. And I'm like, the kick return. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now it's Lawrence missed the first throw, that's what you need. You need the first throw to be complete. Then the risk is gone. And I'm like, here comes his SVP and says, pitchy woo woo. They throw it back twice. And then I didn't even realize this. I saw this in the replay that it bounced. Bounced at the goal line, bounced up. It's on one of my corner TVs, my smaller TVs. All of a sudden, I see the Texans celebrating. The final score comes up, the final score graphic, and I'm like, what is going on? What did they call? I'm waiting for the 24 to flip to a 30.
The exact
luckily,
same.
I had 7.
Oh
so God. I was like, all right, safety's fine. But I know that some people got a worse number. So I was like, that would be awful too. And it didn't change. I'm pulling up the app. I'm like, what is going on? And then I'm like, all right, they just ruled him that it was forward progress at the 1. That was scary.
Oh my God.
I've had a couple of those. I've never had a pitchy woo go my way. Had a couple went against me. They are horrendous. They're so scary. You see it coming, and then it's so disgusting. Anyway, I agree with that pick there. For my third pick and the 5th overall, the Sunday 6-pack. I'm sorry. I'm going with the Cleveland Browns plus 3.5. against the Washington Commanders. It's just all a numbers game. If the Jets were 3, I would take the Jets. We'll talk about that game later. If the Bengals were 3, I would take the Bengals at 3. I have my concerns with both. I have my concerns with the Browns. My 3 favorite bets that were going to be my picks were going to be the Steelers, the Panthers, and the Broncos. You took the Broncos. The only other bet that I like right now that I bet myself is the Browns plus 3.5, minus 115. Still out there. There's a lot of uncertainty, which is I bet it smaller. I'll bet it bigger once I get the injury report. Like, is Njoku going to play? Who on their offensive line is going to play? Did they get their tackles back this week because they lost their center? What's Poach's status? There's so many injuries. Hicks, I think, is important too. But the Commanders' love is at an all-time high. I mean, we just saw the Bills offense for 3 straight games destroy bad defenses. What happens? They go to Baltimore, and what are they? They were outgained by what? What did Josh Allen have, like 70 yards in the first half? This is a different test. Look, the Commanders' offense looks awesome. I think it's still early, but I think I was wrong on Daniels. I thought he was going to be more like
say his name. Just get it out of the way now. Just give him his props. Just give him his props. Just give Cliff his props.
No, the problem is because I do our college podcast too. So I always, and I never want to say his name wrong, because the Kansas quarterback is Jalen Daniels, and then the Commanders quarterback is Jaden Daniels. So I'm always in my head always is flipping him. But Jaden Daniels, he's been tremendous. I mean, like literally flawless. They punted once in their past 3 games.
Yeah, he had one pick. He had the one pick against Arizona too.
One pick on an overthrow. The offense looks great, but I mean, they played the Giants, one of the worst secondaries, if not the worst, in the NFL. They played the Bengals, who didn't have a defensive line. So they were able to establish the run and then just make easy throws. And then Daniels made an incredible throw at the end of the game down the sidelines to McLaurin. He's not missing right now. And then you played the Cardinals defense, one of the worst in the league. So it could not have been an easier path. Now you're going to play a completely different type of defense. A lot of cover one, more aggressive, right? They've been playing these more passive secondaries, which enables them to run what they want to run. It's a different story with the Browns, with their corners and how they play and aggressive. Like, this is a completely different scheme. Also, just a completely different class of defense. So I don't think the Washington offense is going to look as good. By the way, if you want to bet, I might even come back and bet Washington small live, because the Browns offense, when they're really good? The first drive of the game. The Stefanski script has been tremendous. They go down, they score a touchdown the first drive of every game, and then they and then they don't do anything. So I might come back. They don't do anything for us.
That's the perfect soundbite for Deshaun Watson's whole season right there. Whatever that just was. I totally agree.
Look, I will say Watson looked okay last week. He had all kinds of offensive line.
It's the Raiders.
Drops. Yes, but it's the Commanders. Commanders defense is horrendous, and you're asking them to win by margin now against a totally different defense. This is the top of the market on the Commanders. The Commanders, a 3.5-point favorite. I have to take the Browns here. The injuries could all work against me here, but I have to take it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're on the right side. I bet on the Browns once this year and they covered for me, and I feel like I just escaped. It's just
I had them too with you against Jacksonville.
Right? Yeah, it's just such a struggle though. It shouldn't be such a struggle. Like, it just shouldn't be. Because like you said, Stefanski, very good coach. I don't think he really wants Watson as his quarterback. I think it's like an ownership mandate or something, and he's trying to make do. But yeah, it's always a struggle. But if they get Njoku back, they should, that the skill group should have some success. I think Judy could have a big game too. Elijah Moore has been squeaking. Maybe he'll get involved. And they're going to get a third running back finally. I think Pierre Strong is back. And Chubb got designated. He's not going to play.
He was 5th in line. But come on, please play.
He's not.
But I don't think he's going to play. Hopefully
Yeah.
Njoku does. Hopefully you get some of the tackles back. But I have to just take this number. Like, I cannot get there. And this is the peak of the, and this is a different defensive test for Washington. It's not going to look as easy as it has. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to knock you because my pick might be even more disgusting for my third and final pick, the 6th overall of the week 5 Sunday 6-pack. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars, a -3 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is their win. I know they got their cover last week. I think this is their win. I think this could be a little bit of a get right spot for the Jaguars because we know what the Colts do defensively, which is a lot of cover 3 under Gus Bradley. Trevor Lawrence this year, even against cover 3, 8.5 yards an attempt, 66% completion rate. And remember, on the season, just overall, his completion rate is like 53 and his yards per attempt is 6.0. So pretty much the only kind of defense he's having success against. He has been getting unlucky. He has a 12% drop rate of his targets. That is number 1 among qualified quarterbacks. The Jaguars lost 3 one-score games, by 3, 5, and 4. So we all remember the Bills won because it was on prime time, but they've been right there in all their other games. Their offense has been okay, not as bad as it, as the results, because they're 14th in early down success rate, 16th pass, 12th with the run, which kind of surprised me, but they're 30th in third down, 28th in the red zone. Well, why do we look at early down success rate? Because sample is larger and it tends to be more predictive. Things like third down rate, red zone, if you're decent at early downs, tend to regress, towards that mean. So that's what's working for them on offense. And then you have the Colts injured reserve, DeForest Buckner, Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, Juju Brent. Looks like Jonathan Taylor is going to miss this game. So you're going to have Trey Sermon. You might have Joe Flacco. And if I do think Flacco is probably a bit of an upgrade on Richardson, at least for now. But let's not forget he's a turnover machine. 10 picks on 265 attempts last year, 11 turnover-worthy plays. That's rates of 3.8 and 4%. He had 2 turnover-worthy plays last week. So it's either him, who's a turnover machine, or Richardson, who's a turnover machine. And this is just always the Jaguar spot. The Colts are an indoor team. They come to Jacksonville, and they just never seem to get it done. Since 2015, Jacksonville 8-0 at home, straight up 8-0 against the spread against Indianapolis, covering by an average of 20.1 points per game. So it's ugly, but give me the Jags here.
Yeah, I think this is the side. I want I'll probably be on this in some form or fashion. I want Richardson to start against that man defense. He's so inaccurate. I think is Josh Hines out? Is he out? He might be out.
Yeah, it's ugly on both sides.
So the Jags have no defense. Yeah, the Colts, you didn't even mention, like Ryan Kelly, their center, he might be out again. Kwity Paye didn't practice today. Kenny Moore is probably their most important defender.
It's like a preseason game.
The Colts defense is, it's the practice squad right now. So Lawrence, they should be able to move the ball here, but I think Flacco would be able to move the ball too. Like, no Allen, there's no secondary there. Richardson, I don't think could take full advantage of Jacksonville's man coverage, but I want to see how this. And you mentioned Taylor. I also think if Flacco starts and Taylor doesn't, this is a sneaky. I don't really like divisional game outdoor overs, but sneaky over. Like, but both teams probably going to hit a ton of explosive plays. Jacksonville, really explosive offense. There's no one in either secondary. If there's no Taylor, you're going to see just the ball flying around.
65% chance of rain, though. That's
yeah. So I want to watch the injury report, watch the weather, but it could be a sneaky over. But I like your side there. So that'll wrap it.
All right. So we got let's see what quarterbacks we got here. Okay. You got Justin Fields, the Red Rifle, and Deshaun Watson. I got Bo Nix.
What I think I called him the Red Rocket earlier. I called him Darnold too. I know.
Yeah.
What am I?
I called Darnold Sam Bradford last week. But he came through. So
it worked
that's all that
out. It
matters.
worked. So maybe this
It
is the
did.
new thing. We gotta mispronounce the quarterbacks.
So yeah, you got Pittsburgh -1.5, Carolina +4, and the Browns +3.5. I got the Broncos -1.5, the Texans +1.5, and the Jags -3. That is going to do it for our Week 5 Sunday 6-pack. And now it's time.